Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This is a series that consists of spewing out assorted thoughts which arose from somebody who thinks too much, taking in, and generally loving various entertainment media by the boatload. These tidbits may be little theories, observations, or simply jokes. Please bear in mind that all these ideas come from the perspective of somebody who's experienced every main story bit connected with whatever is currently being gone over. So spoilers will be here. However, other works set in a shared continuity will typically solely be referenced in a way that only makes sense to anybody who's also fully experienced those ones up until their same time occurring points. Sort of a coded nod kind of deal. Now, with all of that out of the way, here we go. Ground control to Sara Lance. Mick is extra eager to set the room Zari and Constantine slept in ablaze because he hasn't burned anything since everybody's world got fixed. Sure, all that Fade World alternate reality stuff was technically only a day or two ago, but still, the guy hadn't even given into his compulsion for this new universe's entire existence yet. Must have been very strenuous. Bayrod jumps right to typical tale trappings of aliens being green because a certain Martian manhunter who recently restored his pre-crisis memories would have been the last extraterrestrial he saw. The Legends wouldn't just simply contact a past relative to Sara Lance DEO because they can't risk an earlier version of her, who might be visiting family, finding out she'll go missing sometime soon. Considering that Rip Hunter made comments back in Season 1 about Men of Steel dying and Dark Knight's falling, he may have had knowledge concerning at least possible timelines where aliens are a regular Earth thing in modern for most crew members eras. Thus, he carefully collected some folks for his history-hopping organization that could possibly help reduce problematic scenarios involving off-worlders messing with its home planet's temporal development through normal behavior alone. He'd of course do this for other problems that could arise too, like say there's someone who worked with Ava that might end up being important if the Earth wound up inhabited by cyborgs or whatever since 1749. Meet the Legends. The alien attribute altering eyewear that Mr. Green almost always wears is pretty much definitely just the most preferred modern iteration of transform into human tech that's popular and kinda necessary throughout the universe. Earlier versions may have taken the form of night helmets or top hats and stuff. This whole deal was of course made widespread due to knowledge about the disguise Earth's most famous, perfectly adapting alien, Superman, typically employs. Kayla's ring usage is probably pretty popular as well. Spooner most likely never considered that her powers could be controlled or that metahumans in general were even a thing, because trauma left her incapable of attributing diverted from expectations hoopla to anything aside from other planet originating individuals. This mindset would have, of course, been strengthened exponentially when several dozen Kryptonian-centered events became news stories with impossible to ignore world impact levels. Any of the spirits in each totem must be able to split the respective mystical artifacty homes. It's just not done very often for a couple reasons. 1. The chosen righteous wielders having less powers would kinda make for some sucky fulfilling of their appointed tasks. 2. Having a team of corrupt individuals armed with such things would be really problematic, even if the Mystic's young strength levels were brought down to just 10% or whatever. The X Factor. Lord Noxacrillian species must be so into conquering other planets because doing such things is the most effective method for them when it comes to avoiding boot-bottom-based demises. They might even let worlds become independent once again after some centuries of education regarding being really careful where one steps, yet immovably ingrained in general bigger creature than them societal ideology. Bay of Squids. Mick's almost good at negotiating with Kayla to get help for finding Sara, because he would his snark do such things a lot, but never really paid enough attention, since it seemed really boring. Hence the choking and barely trusting stuff that ensues following his attempt. The Satanist's Apprentice. The normally quite savvy Astra doesn't have a grip on how much money is necessary for doing typical everyday real-world things, because she's become so accustomed to only dealing with soul coins, which are of course considerably more valuable than regular change. Bishop's obsession-induced Sara Lance research must have involved learning about junk regarding transferring souls to new bodies. After all, Constantine sorta did such things in the past, including one which revolved around his future captain, and his spiritual connection deal that originated from said event would have definitely informed him if a new pile of ghostliness was inhabiting an old friend-shaped vessel. Bishop's Gambit. Mick might have lasted a fair bit longer than other less pyromaniacal humans once that atmosphere barrier went away, because his heat gun can produce its own oxygen somehow. Back to the finale, part 2. In-universe usage of the word finale is because being in the temporal zone so much requires them to make their own way of keeping up with stuff related to bodily aging and other unavoidable change caused by unstoppable progressions concerning whatnot. For example, if somebody doesn't have a bowel movement at least once per episode, then a colonoscopy is very much needed. That malarkey about wings and sub-zero temperatures Bishop goes on about most likely stems from obsessively going over Sara's history and imagining her getting killed by Snark's cold gun if he hadn't been all redemption ready, or Thanagarian what have you, in scenarios involving even more complicated than has been on screen before, all people deals. Stressed Western. The annoying teammate held chip part wouldn't have full-on caught fire when Astra performed her fed-up mood-related spell because most time vehicle components must be manufactured with magic-resistant materials due to ever-so-persistent myths about chronological demons and other more definitely proven sorcery stuff such as history hop helping heaps of rock. This overly happy version of Fist City may be the DCTV universe's origin of a certain closed hand bumping into each other consisting friendly gesture. Rule number 1 is no cussing, because not only is the point at which many folks start using such language often a sign of physical violence being considered an option soon, other particularly stingy people who are offended by those things could be made overwhelmingly angry and all punch ready too. All that would of course result in an uncontrollable giant alien worm eating way too much, which might make a certain criminal lose his town ruling power, who then may also have to subsequently clean up incomprehensibly huge vomit and dropping piles as well. Also, little side note unrelated to legends or comic book media in general, since words' meanings are determined by context, other intention related stuff, and how others infer them, it's impossible not to cuss. This others inferring stuff includes people not realizing they are not really different from other words without current emotional circumstance being taken into account though, so avoiding an abundance of swears is still quite respectful when you're around folks who don't enjoy such noises. If you don't like utilizing such language yourself, don't feel guilty about slipping up all on your lonesome if you stub your toe really badly or whatever though. On the other hand, taking such letter combos too lightly can make them lose all impact, making them pointless even when one is overcome with huge vent requiring emotion. So, putting a ton of effort into cussing all the time also happens to be just as dumb as worrying about doing it every once in a while. Anyway, pointless opinion rant time is over. Fun stuff commence once again. Sara knew a person who made such strict rules would be freaked out by somebody who's different, hence her intentionally showing her new regeneration powers after getting hurt instead of coming up with more complex assassin and captaining experience involving plans to handle everything here. This is Gus. Astros all into cash because currency is the only constant between those hellish and earthly societies she's lived in. This world's first alien TV star is of course more of a not so surprising regular deal because Superman and Girl are both long established heroes post-crisis. This especially works because Gus has a similar origin story to them both, what with randomly crashing into the planet all pod contained and whatnot. Bad blood. The JSA are most likely more widely known in this newly reconstituted universe because Sara Lance was focusing heavily on strong fondness she held for that one team member of theirs who joined her crew while rebuilding said old new reality. The final frame. Constantine's current spellworks involve more English and could presumably function with other modern languages sans any ancient words whatsoever, because drinking all that darkly mystical blood made him like those kooky DC Comics folks who are inherently magical. The sheen having spots on those planet bowling balls must be each world's atmosphere, which shields everyone who's trapped from experiencing more than just shaking during game time. Astra bowling granny style might be because this is also something a little kid who's first engaging with said sport might do. This is more or less what the woman is after all, not that she'd have much of a chance to try before, unless they have some sort of non-punishment version available in hell. Board, on board, on board. Gary's Beast Slayers game is almost definitely based on stressful hunger fantasies focused upon eating at least his currently present human comrades that were experienced during particularly troublesome D&D campaigns. Mick would know the exact time Bishop's battleship blasting should have occurred because of his time as Kronos. Silence of the Sonograms. Ava having a hard time with playing at considering her inventor's offers is because this situation brings up plenty of reminders about how strongly she felt regarding fake memories involving certain actor parents. Mr. Rory would make Gary his half-breed children's godfather, not just because said dude's conveniently right there. It's also the result of there being no other same species as Kayla individuals he knows. 6% genetic matching is adequate for Cloud Bishop's near-perfect Sara predicting because she doesn't use that much of herself when doing Legends junk and other action-y stuff. The rest would of course get utilized in heartwarming family whatnot and getting drunk on occasion. There will be brood. Captain Evil Chesspies is good at manipulating others because he at least imagined, if not full-on practice, with what he considers some disposable ones. In other words, the guy messed with his clone creations in preparation for mutiny-related nonsense. Those crazy legends would take their time couriers off, both because they can get itchy on occasion, and also since connecting them to chargers might result in much unpleasant hotness. The mystical extraterrestrial shroom fountain must make mostly pleasant alien species, such as Kryptonians, drawn to Earth. On that note, its protective magic doesn't drive away hostile members of said species because they're overly good ones, such as Superman, consider them potential allies, since true champions like that never really give up on anyone. Either that or its definition of invasive species is more scientific and real-world mimicking. That is, creatures which can overpopulate in a new ecosystem and throw everything out of balance while doing so. The Fungus Amongus. Sara rejecting the technically not psychedelic mushroom consumption plan actually does line up with that whole everybody do Captain Lance stuff but opposite idea, because her past self would have probably partook in recreational highness shenanigans of a similar variety. Nate, as a historian, would be most skilled at marriage ceremony holding because he'd at least have some knowledge of how such things have been typically performed throughout the years. If that mythical protection against invaders isn't about those who screw a lot and become overwhelmingly plentiful, the Dominators would have gone through this supposed ethereal barrier because they saw their actions as self-defense. Any instance of fungal allergies in this universe could very well be the result of that delightful fountain altering folks as an idiot proximity preventing self-defense measure. Unsorted General Season Thought, which really is sorted, just not with the other stuff, but I don't feel like saying Miscellaneous, so it gets this title. A certain ignored Hall of Justice seat request Nate brought up probably involved nothing more than him repeatedly mentioning how he caught Supergirl that one time. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.